What if philanthropy wasn't just about giving, but about igniting movements where stories don't divide, but unite, sparking real change? This is From the Source, where we go beyond the headlines to talk with leaders reshaping our future. Today, we're joined by Minnesota Attorney General Keith Ellison, a fearless advocate for justice and equity. He's here to help us unpack the legal battles reshaping racial equity and how to navigate them. From executive orders to active lawsuits, this is a conversation you don't want to miss. So let's get right into it. Executive orders, are they even legal? First of all, let's welcome the Honorable Attorney General of Minnesota, Keith Ellison. Thank you so much for joining us.
Good to be with you, Ben. Great to be with you, brother.
I know you have so much going on, and so taking out time to educate us, to equip us for the journey ahead is so important. And so before we even get into the specifics, what's the main thing you want our audience, the leaders of charitable organizations, foundations, corporations, nonprofits who are in the Next Narrative Network, who are affected by the major shift in federal policy, to walk away with? What do you want them to walk away with today?
Courage is more important even than smarts and IQ and clever argument. Not to say that being smart and strategic is not important. It is absolutely vital. But having some courage is more important now. I mean, the question is risk tolerance. We see that the administration is breaking every rule, breaking every convention, every tradition. And if we just sort of like continue down the traditional paths, we're going to find ourselves on the losing end. We're going to wake up sometime in 2028 and find out that we don't have a Smithsonian, we don't have a Black History Museum, that we can't even say the word DEI. These will be banned words, unspeakable. You will certainly lose funding, but you might even face even greater section by talking about DEI, by saying that all human beings are equal and endowed by their creator with certain inalienable rights. Those might be banned words one day.
Wow.
And so this is what we're talking about. We can't look at this in 2025. We got to look at where this is going in 2027, 2028. Because if they're going to take your funding for having a diversity, equity, and inclusion program today, what are they going to do after they've taken it? But you show up at the meeting with your African features. They're going to say, well, I told y'all no more DEI. We don't have any. What are you talking about? Well, what's this Black dude doing here then? You follow what I'm saying?
Yeah.
What's this woman doing here? I told you no more DEI. Because we got to remember what the president has said, and we got to believe him. Yeah. He said that the fires in Los Angeles and the fatal airplane crashes, after he fired the Federal Aviation Administration people, he said this was because of DEI.
Yeah.
And when the reporter said, well, why is it? Why would you say that? What's your evidence of that? His answer was, it's common sense. So we live in a world where Lloyd Austin, the former defense secretary, is a DEI hire, and this clown who is the defense secretary now, Pete Hegseth, is viewed as a legitimate actor, although even his mom wrote a letter saying that he was a scurrilous character and should not be confirmed. But at the end of the day, Lloyd Austin's a Black man, and Pete Hegseth is not. So if you were looking at this from an 1850 perspective, one would be qualified, one would not be.
Yeah.
And it wouldn't
simply
be
based on that.
One.
Yeah.
Right. So this is the world we're inching towards. And I know a lot of people listening might say, well, Keith, aren't you being a little hyperbolic? Aren't you sort of overstating the case? What I'm talking about is vigilance. What I'm talking about is you can't expect things to stay the same. Nothing stays the same. They're getting better or they're getting worse. And I'm saying, act now before it gets worse.
Yeah. I was sounding the alarm about Project 2025 and
thank you.
Laying out what could possibly happen. And a lot of leaders, were saying I was being extreme. And before you knew it,
Benjamin,
several of them had lost their funding within months of the president being inaugurated. And so You're painting a picture that is very real, not for tomorrow, but for today.
Yeah. And if it's bad today, what's it going to look like tomorrow? This guy's
Yeah.
not going anywhere.
Yeah.
I mean, he's lost in court on numerous occasions. We'll get into that. But he's undeterred. He comes up with something illegal every day.
Yeah.
And so he doesn't mind losing in court. He comes out of the gate losing on birthright citizenship, losing on impounding $3 trillion, losing on all these things, losing. And yet he comes back every morning with some sort of a crazy thing. And I have to confess, Ben, I just got a very quick message that my daughter just passed the bar exam. So I'm really excited about that.
Congratulations.
Hey, she, you know,
You heard it live. You heard it first here. Congratulations.
I love you, honey. Go away. Go do it, girl. We're proud of you. But
Yes.
yeah, man. But you know, maybe it is appropriate for that little message to have just interjected because we do need fighters on the front line. We do
Yeah.
need good news people. And I will say this, Benjamin, it is important that we educate people. I would say to you, and we're going to talk law stuff today, but I would say to you and everybody who listens to your broadcast that this fight will not be won in the court of law. It'll be won in the court of public opinion. It'll be
Wow.
won in the hearts of the people whose hearts yearn for democracy and yearn for justice and fairness and true history. You know, that's where the fight will be won. At the end of the day, you know, yeah, the great Thurgood Marshall on the front line in the courts fighting, but it really did take the popular struggle led by MLK and many others to really make America a multiracial democracy. So
Yeah.
think about how these things fit together, right? Yeah, we got to be in court. We are in court. We're going to stay in court, but the struggle can't stay in court.
Yeah.
Struggle got to hit the streets.
Yeah. Senator, Minority Leader Chuck Schumer had said something similar about a month ago
Yeah.
when the administration would begin ignoring the Supreme Court. And he said, we need the people.
Yeah.
We cannot sit by. And a lot of leaders, were hoping, and we'll talk about these things being legally questionable, but they were hoping, this is not legal, so it won't stand. But to your point, even when they lose, they come back with something else.
That's
Like
right.
we can't find relief when he loses one case. They're about to come back with something else.
Every day. And the stuff gets crazier.
So let me just start with the question. So we've talked about a lot of these the administration breaking rules, bending things, and some of these things being even legally questionable. What are some of the executive orders leaders need to be paying attention to, and where do these battles kind of stand today?
Yeah. So we filed around attorneys general have filed around 16 lawsuits. As I already noted, the birthright citizenship, as I already noted, the $3 trillion in impounded funds, federal employees being summarily let go and turned out, cutting National Institute of Health grants, cutting PEPFAR, which, all people of all backgrounds care about, but as men and women of African descent, these were killing Africans, and now it's been converted into a chronic disease. But Trump wants to really put 20 million people's lives on the line by cutting PEPFAR. So we're suing on all these things. We're suing on the issue of public health grants. We're going to court. But I'm telling you, and I want people to know, in most instances, when we get these court orders, we're winning and the administration is abiding, but not all the time, right? So I go back to one of those lawsuits where he tried to impound $3 trillion. We then go to court, we sue it, we get an injunction, we get and yet the money starts flowing, and then there's certain times when it doesn't, right? So like we had the federal emergency management, get stopped, and then we got to go to court to get that flowing again. So he's dragging his feet, although for the most part complying. And you already mentioned, Benjamin, when it comes to some of the immigration issues, particularly involving Kilmar, Abrigo, Garcia. The judge says you've illegally kicked him out of the country, bring him back. And Trump, together with his minion in El Salvador, are like, oh, we can't do nothing, sorry. And so that's playing out. And we saw Senator Chris Van Hollen go down there and do his duty to try to uphold the rule of law. So there are a number of violations that are illegal. One of them, like when the federal government says you cannot have a diversity, equity, and inclusion program in your K-12 education, or we're going to sue you. Well, we will meet him in court over that. There's a thing called the 10th Amendment, and I urge your broadcasters to just look at the 10th Amendment. All it says is that the federal government has certain things that it can do. Everything else is up to the state. So the federal government can't just go tell the state, I don't like your program, change it. Can't do it. They can't say, we're going to withhold federal money unless you do it our way. They can't do that. We'll be in court with them over this. We will be suing over this. And, so there's a lot of stuff. I mean, we saw that they tried to cut grants to the museum and institute, to Minority Business Council. We've sued on all of those things. The federal government can't just disrupt these programs because Congress has appropriated the money for these programs. And again, we live in a society where the executive branch has certain powers, the legislative branch has certain powers, and the courts have certain powers, and the one can't just wipe out the powers of the other. Whereas the executive branch is just acting like, yeah, I know y'all appropriating money, I don't care, and so we're going to vindicate, to protect the power of our legislative branch. And they have their limitations because, they got Mike Johnson over there, who is essentially giving up Congress's power, rolled over, played dead.
Yeah.
So that's really the scenario. When it comes to, our nonprofit sector, a lot of them that receive federal grants are seeing disruptions in the flow of funds that come to them. Before we started, I was telling you about the Humanities Center, which is a nonprofit organization, does critical programming around everything from poetry, art, Americana of all kinds, and yet they've been zeroed out. It's illegal because Congress has appropriated the money. So this is the scenario that we're in. Nearly everything Donald Trump has tried to do with these executive orders is doable if you do it legally.
Yeah.
Right. So if you go, there's a way to change the Constitution. If you want to end birthright citizenship, you go to the Constitution, you amend the Constitution. He doesn't want to do it that way. There's a way to change. You can introduce a bill in Congress to say we're going to abolish the Department of Education. You can't do what he's doing. It's illegal. So we go into court, we're fighting these things, but he wants to rule the country like he's some sort of a king, right?
Yeah.
He wants to just issue dictates and we all got to do what he say, but that it can't go down that way. We're not going to tolerate it. We're going to fight him every step of the way. And so
a lawyer speculated that the administration is ignoring some of the court rulings to force it all the way to the Supreme Court,
right,
to possibly give the president new powers. How possible is that, in your opinion?
I think it's their theory.
Mm.
But I'm going to tell you this, as much as the Supreme Court is disappointed, I don't think we should give up on the Supreme Court. I think we need to do this to the Supreme Court. We need to say, you need to flagrantly, openly abdicate your responsibility, or you need to live up to your responsibility.
Yeah.
But we're not going to let you off the hook. You're not going to be able to get to say, oh, my name is Wes and I ain't part of this mess. No, you in this.
Yeah.
And you're going to have to say what is what. Now, you're either going to go with 127 years of Supreme Court precedent when it comes to birthright citizenship, or you're not. But you're not going to be able to escape. So when the administration is pushing this forward because he thinks he has friendly allies, well, he's been disappointed by some of them allies already. You may recall a really ridiculous case called Texas versus Pennsylvania, where this clown named Ken Paxton he's the Attorney General in Texas, filed a lawsuit with the Supreme Court to overturn the Pennsylvania election. The Supreme Court laughed him out of court.
Yeah.
So these kind of things, I mean, the Supreme Court doesn't always fail. I mean, we know we got 3 justices who are always going to do the right thing. We know Ketanji Brown Jackson is a justice person.
Yes.
We know Elena Kagan is a justice person. We know Sonia Sotomayor is a justice person. Well, what we don't know is what John Roberts is going to do, and we don't know what Amy Coney Barrett is going to do. But we do believe that there's a chance they can do what's right, and they can live up to their constitutional responsibility. Clarence Thomas lost cause, Alito lost cause, and then you got Gorsuch and Kavanaugh, and they're pretty ideologically bent toward Trump. So we'll see what happens with them. But even they cannot be allowed to just hide in the corners. They're going to have to all be heard and seen.
Yeah. You talked about leaders. You said, my name is Wes Knight in this mess. I've traveled the country, and, some leaders seem to not be tuned in to what's really happening. And the Chronicle of Philanthropy published an alleged hit list of 300 plus foundations being targeted by the federal government. And it sent shockwaves through the sector, billions of dollars at stake. Are organizations truly being targeted by the federal government? Should leaders be concerned? And if so, how do leaders protect themselves and defend their commitment to racial equity and DEI?
Yes, institutions and leaders are being targeted. Yes, they must defend themselves. But here's the good news. If you stick together and fight, you can win. That's the story. So look, we already know that he has targeted law firms. He targeted Skadden Arps. He targeted Jenner and Block. He targeted various other law firms. We know he's targeted universities, targeted Harvard, targeted Columbia, targeted even University of Minnesota. We know this. Why would he spare philanthropy? You're out there doing good things. You're out there helping people who need help. He don't like that. And of course, he's targeting. And so we need to disabuse ourselves of the idea that, he's not targeting. He wouldn't target. No, he is. And the sooner you embrace that fact, the sooner you can pull together a defense. Now, what is the defense? Well, the defense's range. One is, if it's federal funds that he's trying to take, Congress has already allocated these federal funds. The president does not have the legal authority to just take away money that Congress has already allotted to you. This is what they call in lawyer talk, for any of y'all out there who speak lawyerese, it's called ultra vires. He's exceeding his authority. He's exceeding his authority under the Administrative Procedures Act. He's violating the separation of powers. He well may be violating your First Amendment right to freedom of expression. Because if you're a private nonprofit and he's going to take your money away because you believe in the equality of all human beings expressed through diversity, equity, and inclusion programs, well, that's targeting you for your First Amendment belief system. And so there's a lot of ways to fight. I think that lawyers for the nonprofit sector need to get ready to start preparing your briefs. Check in with your attorneys general. Call Brother Keith, call Tish James, call Rob Bonta, call Kwame Raoul, call the attorneys general who believe in justice, and get together with them. Many of these AGs already have a role to play in charitable giving and nonprofits and charitable fundraising. This is a good time to call, good time to have a meeting and say, what are we going to do? And then the next thing is to come together with all of the groups on this list. If there's a published list, need to have a meeting of all the people on the list, because it is important to fight together. He's going to try to pick people up. What he will do is go to one foundation and say, well, if you guys abandon DEI publicly, then we'll take you off our list. And then you think, okay, well, if we do that, then, you know, there might be some sneaky ways we can still do DEI. Don't think these stupid.
Mm,
Anybody who thinks Trump is stupid is making a big mistake. Trump is not stupid. He does sound stupid, and things he does are stupid. But he has a lot of people around him who are helping him with this project. So don't think you're gonna say you're not doing DEI and then you keep doing it,
yeah.
right? You let's just have the fight straight out in public now. Let's go to court. Let's join with the DEI with your attorney generals to do it. Let's join with your your the ACLU, other groups that stand up for rights, and let's just slug it out. I believe we win this
Yeah.
because here's the thing about the U.S. Supreme Court and other courts: they know that their legitimacy lies in doing things that the public will support.
Yeah.
They've already done things that the public doesn't support. How long will it be before they completely destroy any credibility connected to their institution?
Yeah.
They're mindful of that. John Roberts is mindful of that. You will recall, Benjamin, when he got up there and Trump was like, oh, we're going to impeach judges that disagree with me.
Yeah.
Well, John Roberts comes in and says, wait a minute, you can't do that. You know, if you want to appeal, that's the system. But impeaching people because you don't like what they said, that's not right. And Trump backed down. So my point is, we are going to make the Supreme Court decide between its legitimacy as an institution and its obedience to Trump.
Yeah. That's one extremely important and to think about. And again, calls on the people
The people.
to lean in heavily.
That's right.
And I really appreciated, the nonprofit lawyers preparing their briefs and getting ready for the fight. And then if for everybody on the list, if you're on this list, let's get together
Yep.
because we're stronger together, number one, but we have greater resources. But trying to fight it out by yourself, you have a fighting chance coming together with 300 plus huge organizations. That was absolute great advice.
Well,
So bank,
Benjamin, sometimes the dog catches the car, right?
yeah,
It's possible that Trump bites off more than he can chew if we
yeah,
stand up and fight
yeah, absolutely,
him. Yeah.
absolutely. So banks, community development, financial institutions, and other institutions who extend capital to historically underfunded communities are facing big scrutiny. How should they be thinking about risk and compliance in this climate?
Well, they should comply with every sensible legal rule. They should make sure that their proportion of capital that they retain is sufficient to cover. You know, they should do all those prudential, bank requirements, CDFI requirements for their solvency, but they should also comply with the law that exists. So the Community Revitalization Act, the am I getting the acronym proper? Um,
CDFI?
well, the CDFI is banks that serve communities that need the help, but there is a law that is called the Community Reinvestment Act. That's it.
Yes.
The Community Reinvestment Act says that you have to lend to the people who are in your community.
Mm,
This is the law.
hmm.
Been the law for a long time.
Yeah.
How can you obey a executive order and not violate the Community Reinvestment Act?
Yeah.
So the Community Reinvestment Act says that you have to you must do lending in areas that are harmed and in your service area, and you've got to step up and do that. Now, let's talk about what is an executive order. An executive order is not a court order. I'm going to say that again. An executive order is not a court order. It doesn't have the force of law, but what it does have is it is the policy of the administration.
Okay.
It's executive orders are not illegal. They're just saying, here's how within the law, we're going to do things. Every president has executive orders. What Trump has said is that he's going to use executive orders to literally break the law.
Wow.
So now, lending institutions, providing capital to low-income communities or distressed communities or whatever, they have a responsibility to serve those communities under the Community Reinvestment Act and other provisions of law. There are corollaries for even credit unions, right? And you have to abide by those things. And just because Trump says, I don't like DEI, that doesn't mean you get to abandon DEI. And so that's the thing. Trump is asking you to do things that are illegal.
Yeah.
You can't do them because a statute passed by Congress is more powerful than Trump's little executive order that he thought up last night.
Yeah.
No. And so there it is. Now, an executive order, there's nothing illegal about a legal executive order, but an unlawful executive order, you can challenge if the court says my policy is going to be something that's unconstitutional, which he has said repeatedly. That's why we get to go to court on his executive orders.
Yeah.
But all it is a policy statement within the law as written.
Now, considering how you just laid out what executive orders are, some leaders are complying and heavily for fear of being sued. Do these executive orders create the space and the climate for individuals or groups to sue private foundations, corporations, even nonprofits for their DEI programs and efforts?
Well, here's some of these people who are incorrectly saying, oh, we're going to obey the executive order because we fear being sued. Who's going to sue? Well, the Department of Justice. They're the ones who are going to sue because they are political appointees of the president.
Mm-hmm.
So that doesn't mean they have a legal basis for their lawsuit. That doesn't mean that they're right. So say for instance, in your program is to make sure that low income moms are getting an opportunity for education. Now, Donald Trump might think it is sexist and racist for you to have a program to help low income moms.
Yeah.
Because many of these moms are women of color and they're women. Well, I think that you can justify that program because this is a particularly aggrieved group and it's private money a lot of times. And even if it's not, you're not saying that white people can't get any money and you're not saying men can't get any. Apparently, if you were a low-income dad who showed up and said, I want to get an education too, I'm pretty sure everybody would be like, okay, well, the program generally is moms, but, we're here to help everybody. I'd say don't be doctrinaire. You don't want to have people who fit within your mission, but they can't get service from you because they are not in a demographic category, right? So the thing is you say, yeah, this program's to help low-income moms, but, if dads show up with the criteria, we'll help them. There's plenty of people of different colors in the program. And even programs that are set up to help Black women and get into business.
Yeah.
These programs, you can fight and defend these programs based on First Amendment grounds because they're not taking money away from anyone, right? There's plenty of money out there. And this is a historically oppressed community and we have ample evidence to prove it. So I would say stick by your program. Look over the 1964 Civil Rights Act. Make sure that there's no discrimination within the work you're doing, and then do the work you're doing, right? You can't violate the 1964 Civil Rights Act. But you can bring help to communities and sectors that need the help. And you notice that Trump never said, nobody ever says if farmers are having a particularly bad year and the crops are down and they can't get a good price, that we can't help them. Well, they're mostly white nowadays. We still can help them. The anti-discrimination is not about not helping people who need the help. Anti-discrimination is about trying to make sure that nobody is excluded from opportunities that they should have based on their historic status of oppression, including race, sex, all kinds of things. So, could somebody write a diversity, equity, and inclusion program that is unconstitutional or illegal? I think theoretically it's possible, but I've never really seen one,
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, if you said only Black people can be hired here, you might be able to make a case that program can't stand. But who has that program? I've never seen that program.
Yeah.
What I see is programs that are trying to encourage historically excluded people to participate and be involved, and to make sure that everybody of all colors, cultures, and faiths has greater awareness of their neighbors. So they don't want to have a Women's History Month, a Latino History Month. Oh, that's DEI. Well, wait a minute. Aren't we all better served by knowing something about the culture of our neighbors
Yes.
and their history and their struggle and their story? But I say don't give up too early. Get your lawyers to look over to make sure you're square with the 64 Civil Rights Act and do your work.
So, while leaders are being fearful of, being sued, uh, a lot of organizations who depend on private fundraising are having a time convincing their donors that supporting their programs that are committed to racial equity is not a high risk. What do you say to those donors and people who want to give and support, but fear that their support may, have pushback, or they may be then targeted if they're kind of a highly visible person supporting these
Right.
programs? How do you convince them to stay committed to funding these programs?
Look, we're in the middle of April 2025. I am telling you that the only salvation you have is in solidarity and in our law. Nobody can tell you you're not going to be targeted by Donald Trump. Donald Trump targeted Volodymyr Zelensky. He targets whoever he wants to target. He targeted Facebook, Mark Zuckerberg, who's not the richest in the world, but one of them. He targeted venerated institutions like Harvard and Columbia. Nobody can tell you that you're not going to draw the heat of this bad man. But what I can tell you is that if your mission is good and just, then you should stick by it, and you should organize to defend. And that is the right thing to do right now. The only way to square with Trump is to go down to Mar-a-Lago, ask him if you can kiss his hand and you swear allegiance to him. That's the only way. Now, if your dignity allows you to do that, mine doesn't. And so bottom line is, if you believed that making sure that America really reaches its a goal of liberty and justice for all, if you believe that still, then stick with it. Keep at it. Don't break down, don't back down.
Yeah.
Say, we believe in what we're doing and we're going to stand on it, just like Harvard. They came to the realization that Columbia rolled over, played dead, and said, we'll do whatever you say, boss. And he still kept coming after them.
Yeah.
So take a note, take a note from history. Read the room. That's what I got to say, Benjamin.
Yeah. And he woke up the beast in Harvard.
Yeah.
And to your point, join in with those who are fighting and have the resources to fight. So
there's more of us than them. We're gonna win if we stick together and don't back down.
Absolutely. As we wrap, some argue that these executive orders are about ensuring neutral policies preventing discrimination in reverse. What's your thought on people saying this is all about fairness and not rolling back civil rights?
It's just a lie. It's not true. And here's some of the evidence. First of all, when asked about, I'll go back to this example of the fires. I'll go back to the example of the fatal plane crashes when the president says, oh, this is DEI. I mean, and then his answer is it's common sense that it's DEI. That tells you this is not about just setting up neutral rules. I'll continue on. What's wrong with diversity, equity, inclusion, and teaching American true history? They don't want you to learn true history. They're taking they took Jackie Robinson's photo down at the Pentagon. How's that neutral? There's plenty of white pictures up there. How's that neutral? This is not staying where it is. This is going in a certain direction. There's never been a tyrannical, wicked leader in the world history who has ever said, I am a tyrannical, wicked leader. Hitler had a reason for doing what he was doing. He said, we Germans are victims of the Jews, and we're the victims, though. So all we're doing is self-defense. Every wicked leader is always going to have some self-justification and some neutral-sounding explanation for the wrong that they do. In American history, they said, well, we're good Christian people. And these people don't have souls. And that's okay for us to enslave them, right? And then when Black people became Christians, they said, well, the Bible says that slavery is okay. In fact, slaves obey your masters. We can use it to justify slavery. Don't ever expect a wicked ruler to say, oh, I'm a wicked ruler and I'm doing it because I'm wicked. No, they always have some slick sounding, fair seeming explanation for what they're doing in order to stop you from resisting them. This is not about fair rules. Because look at all the people that Trump has put up so far. These people are not qualified for the jobs that they're doing.
Not at all.
Pete Hegseth never commanded he's not a leader he's not a military leader. He was in the National Guard for a little while. Name them on down the line. Golly. This woman, McMahon, she's not an educational leader. I mean, look at Kash Patel. He's not a law enforcement leader. These people have one qualification: loyalty to Trump, and they fit Trump's demographic requirements.
Yeah.
He will make exceptions for cases of extreme loyalty, like Clarence Thomas and Kash Patel.
Yeah.
He'll make exceptions if you really prove that you love him. Maybe he can use you. But the point is, he's looking for Pete Hegseth to hold the most important national defense job in America, completely unqualified. So we're not talking about fair rules. We're not talking about meritocracy. We're talking about white supremacy.
Yeah.
This is what we're talking about. And by the way, let me add, Benjamin, and it's important for us to remind ourselves of this. White supremacists don't like white people. They don't.
Wow. Double tap on that.
Well, they want power.
Yeah.
I mean, when have you ever seen David Duke talking about health care for whites?
Yeah.
When have you ever seen David Duke saying, the minimum wage for white people is too low? We need more education opportunities for white people. David Duke, the white supremacists, you ain't never heard him talk like that. All they do is talk about the blacks are taking over, the Latinos are taking over. My wife won't mind me and do what I tell her. And so all of us poor, aggrieved white men need to band together because we're victims. But they never talk about what they want to do for anyone.
Yeah.
They're trying to get power. You may know this, Benjamin, but I happen to be a person of the Muslim faith. Osama bin Laden ran around talking about Islam and being a Muslim and how we're victims all the time. He did it, and he was hanging Muslims, burning Muslims, murdering them. Why? Because if you're a white person and you feel like your life is not going great, you're like, look, man, the plant moved. I'm out of work. I'm a greeter at Walmart. Things aren't going well around here. Unemployment is higher. Opioids are raging. And somebody comes to you and you don't know why any of these things are happening, but somebody comes to you and say, it's because of the Jews and the blacks and the Latinos. And if they come to you, you might think, well, I don't have a better reason for why it is. I don't know. I only went to the 4th grade. I don't read that well. And I heard the president say that. That is why they use that white supremacy thing, because they want to appeal to aggrieved people who they can get to their side. The great Lyndon Johnson, our president in the 60s, said, if you can convince the lowest white man that he's better than the best black man, you can pick his pocket.
Yeah.
That's a quote. You can look it up. Anybody watching can look it up. We know that you can manipulate race and identity in order to get power for yourself. But it's not about the people. It's about you getting a grip on all of them.
Yeah.
And so that's what I am saying to people. If you're a young white man, don't believe what these people are telling you. They're not on your side. They're not trying to help you. They're not trying to help you get a better job or anything like that. They're trying to just use you so they can get power for themselves.
So I saw a post and it said, you're not mad at your vote. You're just mad that your vote is negatively affecting you. So for those who were on this side of or that side of history, even leaders, right? We can't assume that it was all low income folks who, so how do they find redemption now that they realize that this is the impact of their vote? How do they now come back on the side of right and find redemption and help push us back to some sense of civility and protect our democracy?
I just rely on what Martin Luther King said. The time is always right.
Yeah.
Stay with me, to do what is right.
Yeah.
Time is always right to do what is right. If you've done wrong 10 times before, you can do right on the 11th time.
Yeah.
And, hey, I'm a praying man. I believe God's merciful. Do the right thing now, even if you did the wrong thing then.
Yeah.
And, look, the election's over. Nobody can do anything about that. And it doesn't profit anyone to do it. And I told you so. You certainly never going to hear me say that. I'm saying you thought he was going to do one thing and he lied to you.
Yeah.
Abandon. Let him go and get on the right side of history. That's what I say.
Absolutely. So, one, thank you for your time. And despite the many challenges that we've talked about, which are important and people ought to hear, outside of your daughter passing the bar, what are you most encouraged by right now? And what are some of the movements that are happening in our space that give you hope for the future? I know we painted a pretty daunting picture to 2028, but all of those are possible and real.
Yeah.
But what are the things that are giving you hope and what's bringing you encouragement and joy right now?
I was at a community meeting the other day. 1,300 people showed up. These meetings usually, if you get 75, that's a lot. But 1,300 people.
Wow.
And it's happening all over the country. 2 weeks ago, you literally had 30,000 people outside the state capitol in St. Paul, and you had many, many more than that in Washington. You had people are upset. They are out there. You see veterans protesting. You see farmers saying no. You see people coming out. Chris Van Hollen, who's a good friend of mine, he's a senator from Maryland, goes down to El Salvador to stand up for the rule of law.
Yes.
Cory Booker,
Yes.
25 hours.
Yes.
I'm like, Cory, go. He was outstanding. You see Bernie Sanders and AOC pulling together enormous groups of people to talk about our country. Bottom line is people are saying no to this. What we need to do is we need to build a coalition. We need to expand we need to invite more people to it. And I'm glad you asked, Benjamin, what about the people who were on the other team? All that's over. We need you to join us to restore American democracy, to protect and defend liberty and justice for all. That's what we need you for now. This is the time for all people to step up and do the right thing. If you believe in justice, and I don't care if it's racial justice, farm justice, economic justice, gender justice, we need you right now. If you believe in rule of law and fairness, we need you now. And if you're being negatively impacted by these crazy tariffs that are absolutely reckless, that are not even thought through, that just cross the board. He's at war with the world. He's at economic war with the world,
The world.
right?
The
And the only
world.
people he likes are Mohammed bin Salman in Saudi Arabia, a dictator and a monarch, and Putin.
Yeah.
So the thing is, there's a lot of positive things going on. If we stick together, if we continue to communicate, we won't just protect and defend and preserve American democracy. We will improve it.
Yeah.
We will make it better because we're all learning a valuable lesson right now, which is democracy is fragile.
Yeah.
Which is it's not, and which is that we all need each other, and we're all better if we work together. So, Benjamin, you're a wonderful broadcaster, man. I want to say thank you for having me on, and please keep it up. And know that whenever you call, I'll be coming, man. With me making time.
Absolutely. We will definitely be calling back because things are, it's uncertain out here, and people need to know how to legally fight back or how to build coalition, but know that you and so many people like you are on their side, and you are doing the good work of justice, getting into good trouble and fighting the good fight.
That's right.
You said something that clicked for me, and which I have to personally work on, is stop being mad at those who I know personally who
It's
support
hard
the other
sometimes.
side. But listen to me. Wu Saying. God, give me the forgiving heart to not be mad, but to say, hey, you're
Right.
hurting too. Let's join forces. Let's fight back. So that
Right.
was important. Thank you for that. So, the legal landscape is shifting. Racial equity initiatives are in the crosshair. But as Attorney General has made it clear, these executive orders aren't necessarily legal, and there are active lawsuits challenging them. The question isn't just what's happening, it's how do we navigate? Attorney General Keith Ellison, thank you so much for joining us. Listeners, thank you for tuning in. And if you found this conversation valuable, share it and keep building the next narrative together. Stay informed and gain more insights by visiting nextnarrative.org and signing up for our newsletter. I'm your host, Benjamin Carlton, and we'll see you next time on From the Source.
From the Source. Thank you, Benjamin.
Thank you, good brother.